This drawing's being converted from an AutoCAD DWG file, and there are still some problems with it. If we look at this block here, the title block, which, let me zoom extends, which you can see here is in model space. I want it in the layout space. I want that block there to be able to be selected and put into layout space. If we can do that, then we can use that very same title block on lots of other layout sheets. And we want to be able to present different parts of the design on different layout sheets, and in fact assign different layer combinations to different sheets. So it's quite important. But when we zoom in on that block and select it, we can move into an edit block operation. And if we pick these lines, you can see there are two polylines there. But let's close the block. What I'd like to do is, because I want to make it into a block and then later insert it into layout, the easiest way to do that is to explode that block, break it up into its constituent parts, and we've done just that. Now you can see, if I select here, that the title block is made up of a couple of polylines. I'll erase the first of those polylines, pick the second one, and although the width here is a star, which means any width, I'll just for the moment nominate a width of 1, and that should, if I get that right, that should return me to the original setting, and it doesn't, so I'll select that polyline and explode it. Now I'm back to a normal, in a sense, to a normal series of lines and arcs that make up the polyline that was around the outside. So what I'm now doing is selecting each part of the polyline, what was a polyline, and now I'm going to join them. There is actually an easier way. Just do a rectangle and put a radius of curvature onto that polyline. Let's do that. That would be a far neater and more elegant way to do it. So we can draw a rectangle using 2 points. We'll put one of our points in one corner and the other one down through here, and we'll select that rectangle, just check its height and width, and let's round them off, and we'll make them 73 units wide by 25 units high, and we'll set a corner radius. We'll try 5 for the moment, and that might well do us. So now if we pick, in fact it's going to be quite tricky, isn't it, to pick those. So let's just temporarily move the polyline, the new polyline that we've made out of a rectangle, and that will help us to select the complicated way in which the title block was made. Let's erase those. Now we can move our design around the block, and we're in business. I think that fits reasonably well. You might prefer to move it up to something like that, but that's your preference. You might want to extend the lines across. Let's do that. So modify, extend. This can be the boundary, and we'll extend those two lines across. These two lines can be extended down, and just in case I've made an error there, we can modify and trim with this as the cutting edge, and we can knock off those small overhanging pieces. And zoom extents. Let's zoom in on our block again. Now, of course, we now have our text height in a slightly tricky and not ideal position, but when I look at that demonstration design, let's change the height of that. It looks far too large to me. We'll make that 3, and we'll make the other two 2.25. So now we have those in a better position, and we can move those down like so. So client's name can fit in here, the detail of the site can be put there, the date, revision date, and so on. can all be put in position. The initials of the draft are there, and so on. That's not an ideal title block, but it gets us into a position where we can now select everything there, right-click, create a block, which we'll call title _2, just in case there's one there already. And for a pick point, we'll pick the bottom left and we'll go OK. That's now done. We can delete it, and then we can swing over here and use the blocks tool, and we're looking for a block called title _2, and we can insert it into this drawing and pop it down in the corner. So our title block now lives in the layout space rather than in the model. I can zoom extents there. I do want to remove that frame. So now we have the design in a space, in its own model space, and every inquiry we make of this design now gives us numbers that are meaningful, and other parts of the design which really dress up the design and have nothing whatsoever to do with the measurements of the site, we can put here. So there's nothing to stop us putting a rectangle in and surrounding the title block. So we are, in a sense, mimicking the way the original drawing was set up. Any adjustments can be made easily by moving in that direction. Now, as we make new zones, let's say we wanted to make a new layout, and we'll make it on another sheet. We'll take a fancy B size sheet this time, and we'll leave it in, no we won't, we'll change to that format, and we come to the layout. Can you see that the block is no longer there, but because it's in the block library, it becomes a trivial matter now to insert it in here. And if we change the color of the floating viewport to 255, when we go to plot, it won't be seen. So now we're ready to do it. Let's zoom in, and we'll reserve this smaller sheet for just the front garden area. So we double click in here, change the size of the floating viewport just to cover the design in the front, and we'll display that on the layout and deactivate. So you can see now we've got two layout sheets, one showing the total plan at a particular scale, let's zoom extents, and another, zoom extents again, another on a different size sheet of paper, still with the same title block information, showing just the front yard. We can explode the block and edit the text to tell the viewer what this particular layout shows. Clearly it's the front, the design for the front of the site.